Greetings, fellow mortals. Just a reminder, saying it's just my opinion is for cowards. Like, that's actually going to prevent people from being rude to you on the internet. Come on. Oh, and spoilers up to the Alabasta arc, by the way. Now, I adore One Piece. Oda has stunned me with his characters, his world, and the lore many times. I'm happy that the live-action version brought more attention to the series and made more fans. But while I think Oda is a brilliant writer, no author, writer, or creator in general is perfect. Everyone has their weaknesses, their blind spots, something that is just naturally the hardest part of writing for them. Even my favorite books and shows have weaknesses. As much as it pains me to admit, Better Call Saul is a slow burn that you have to pay attention to every single small detail. It's a thinking show, so you can't enjoy it if you're too tired. The Lord of the Rings books have the weirdest song and frolicking scenes ever that make me question if Tolkien was smoking something. Persona 5 has a few giant plot holes that you need to fill in for yourself, and Oda is really bad at bringing back characters who have no business surviving what they went through.
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
You could argue that Oda has other weaknesses. He gets new ideas, so new concepts and groups get added way past the point that they should have been mentioned. But Oda actually does a pretty good job of being a pantser type of writer. He obviously plans a lot, but it leaves just enough vagueness to build upon it. And he ties everything in together perfectly in a way that I don't see many other creative types actually accomplishing. Even my favorite authors, Brandon Sanderson and Joe Abercrombie, are obvious full planning writers. Now, some people view some of Oda's developments as retcons, where he just changes already established facts, but I disagree. Oda doesn't exactly contradict himself a whole lot. He just keeps building on what he said before, and oftentimes when things are changed, it's because the character who revealed the information was an unreliable source. Considering how long One Piece is, I'm sure there are a few times where Oda made a mistake or two, but it's minimal compared to many other long-running series.
And that's all I have to say about that.
Another aspect that you could call a weakness is Oda's character designs. The women are very unrealistic. They all have the exact same body shapes as well, and many of the male characters are the oddest looking people that you have ever seen. While that is a fair criticism, it's more of a stylistic choice compared to anything else. Hell, a personal peeve of mine is that every character in this series has the flattest rear ends possible. Oda does not believe in PH fat butts. Everyone has pancake asses. He is obviously objectively wrong for this style choice, but it is definitely all an artistic choice. Oda is capable of drawing diverse and distinct faces. You could show me most of the characters without their hair, and I would still recognize who they are, even most of the women. And the reason they all have the same build is probably because Oda's wife is a Nami cosplayer, and that makes Oda really like Nami. So every woman has the body of Nami, so he can imagine his wife in those outfits. Now, there is no way to prove this theory, but I have a gut feeling that's what's going through that man's head.
I know you're a pervert under there.
Yeah.
While these other supposed weaknesses can be explained away by stylistic choices, the characters surviving certain death cannot. Now, I know that Oda loves happy endings. He adores a big party at the end of an arc. Killing a bunch of people would put a damper on the celebration. I get that, and I get characters living through the danger. That makes sense. I don't particularly have a problem with that. Just look at the Arlong Park arc. No named characters were killed on screen, even if plenty died off screen. There was no problem with that. Why? Because Oda didn't drop a nuke on someone in the East Blue section of One Piece. But as soon as he gets to the Grand Line, Oda just goes nuts with this stuff. How many people were at the center of an explosion that should have killed them just from entering the Grand Line up until the Alabasta fights? And that isn't even taking into account the events that happened later in the series. Now, I get that main characters get at least a little bit of plot armor. You have to go into a story expecting that. that. It's fine for the main characters. They're the main characters after all. They can't just die randomly. But are you really telling me that Pell actually lived through being at the center of a nuke that would have destroyed a whole city? How?
How? How? I don't know.
I don't know, you don't know, even Oda doesn't know. He just shrugs it off and keeps going. Now, I've heard talk that Oda decided against killing Pell because of the 9/11 attacks, which, okay, I can't exactly sit here and argue with that, but that still doesn't explain how Pell lived. Why not give Pell just enough time to drop the bomb in the middle of the desert? Why not have him be caught at the edge of the burst, where he has at least some likelihood of living? I'm not against the idea of a happy ending to arcs or everyone living, because Oda does love the party scenes, but you could do it in a way that doesn't take me out of the story. Seeing Pell live through something literally unsurvivable makes me grimace, and maybe I could forgive it if it happened this one time, but even in Skypiea there were at least 2 times where non-main characters lived through events that should have killed them, and there were a few people Oda should have killed off in Water 7. Thriller Bark was fine, and so on and so forth. Yes, Marineford was different, but there's a reason that One Piece's hottest selling period was during Marineford, and the moments where characters didn't make it, well,
I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this.
this is one of the reasons why I actually really like how Oda kills off characters. The deaths mean something. If it's in a backstory, those characters are definitely screwed. But in the current timeline, they're probably safe. But when the character is not safe, the death hits harder than anyone could have anticipated. Even over a decade later, people still talk about a few of the key deaths in One Piece. Those kills change the entire course of the story. It's brilliantly done from a writing and artistic choice perspective. But having a few of the characters survive through things that should have killed them feels cheap, especially when there isn't a good explanation for it. And the funny thing is that it would be super easy to avoid this. Just don't put the characters in a position where the only possible conclusion is that they died. Don't show them basically dying, where their bodies are obliterated by an explosion or completely shattering on the inside, where even the characters that survived admit that they should have died. Oda is literally putting himself in a no-win situation. Just avoid doing it. It's like a child next to a stove. You tell him not to touch it. You're gonna get burned if you touch it, but he does it anyway for drama's sake. It's not like this ruins the story of One Piece or anything. In fact, it's something that can be forgotten about pretty easily. It's just something that you have to accept from Oda. He's going to put side characters into positions where they basically die on screen, but they somehow still live through the power of plot armor. It's almost comedic how so few people die during the conflicts in the story, but it can also be seen as comforting. It's Oda's way of entertaining you without making you feel too sad, which is admirable. After all, we live in an age where everything has to be super dark and serious and edgy at all times. Oda wants the happy conclusion. He wants people to feel good after reading or watching his work. It's one of the many reasons the various One Piece arcs are best enjoyed when it's all concluded. Some people might view Oda's attempts at drama by falsely killing off characters as overplayed, but it's just one of his quirks. I don't see that changing anytime soon. Authors have weird quirks sometimes. Lord knows I have my own with naming things. Sometimes I just pick bad names for my characters just as a personal inside joke to annoy my wife. She hates that one of her favorite characters from my series is named Monster Hunter Bob.
You serious?
Someone could criticize me for that. It's dumb. It could take you out of the story. But sometimes authors like to indulge their worst instincts. Oda likes the big dramatic death scenes where everyone walks away okay in the end for the party. It's not too overdone. It's fine. It's just who Oda is, and One Piece wouldn't have reached such greatness if he wasn't a weird guy. You're welcome to disagree with me. That's fine. After all, everyone is entitled to their objectively wrong opinion.
I can handle things. I'm smart. Not like everybody says.
Please consider giving me a like and subscribing. It would really help me out. And hey, do you like stories about an interconnected world? Then consider giving my LP Shield books a try. They are all connected in some way, but you can jump in at any point, unless it's a series. Then you have to start at the beginning. But I got 3 books out right now and 3 coming next year. You will not have to wait long for content. Either way, thank you. I appreciate you. Do not despair.